For our ancestors, the end of the world wasn't a bang, it was a whisper. The whisper of a killing frost that never ended. In an age of twilight, survival didn't depend on the power of one, but on the warmth of many breathing close around a fragile fire. The Ice Age was no gentle winter. It was a planetary crisis. Ice sheets buried continents, winds carved the land, and temperatures dropped 6 degrees below today's world. It was merciless, a silence that crushed all life until only the strongest remained. And yet one species refused to vanish. From the warmth of Africa, our ancestors faced a continent of ice and hunger. Fire, bone, and trust became their armor. They did not simply survive the frozen earth, they built the first circle of humanity within it. Their first defense was not a wall but a flame. On endless tundra, where wind sliced like glass, fire was survival itself. Keeping it alive meant endless effort, feeding it with dry grass, bone, and breath, a single light defying the night of the world. Wood was rare, so they learned to burn what others could not, mammoth bone. It gave off bright, steady heat, and around that glow, families gathered. In the storm's heart, the circle of fire became humanity's first fortress against the void. When caves ran out, they built new ones. Shelters of jawbone, tusk, and hide rose from frozen plains. Some walls curved with mammoth skulls, others hung thick hides to block the wind. These bone houses turned the dead into guardians of the living. Inside those shelters, firelight danced over soot and bone. Women sewed hides with bone needles, children watched, learning each motion. Around the hearth, survival became collaboration, every task a rhythm that bound them tighter than the cold. The invention of the needle changed everything. With bone and sinew, they tailored warmth to their bodies. Layered clothing trapped heat, turning movement into defense. The needle was no ornament, it was the silent edge of human resilience. Hunting the giants of the Ice Age demanded trust. Alone, a hunter was prey. Together, they became strategy and precision, driving mammoths into traps, coordinating with shouts and gestures. The hunt itself was a language of unity. When the spear struck true and the beast fell, it fed everyone. Around the fire that night, smoke curled through laughter and exhaustion. The hunt's success wasn't strength alone, it was proof that survival now depended on the many, not the few. Their greatest adaptation wasn't in muscle or bone, but in how they lived together. The fire became the center of their world. One guarded, one mended, one watched the children. The circle of warmth was a living system built on trust. The glow of the fire marked the edge between safety and oblivion. Inside, stories and gestures replaced fear. Outside, wolves watched. The family was no longer just blood, it was a fortress of cooperation against the darkness of the ice. Then came the great storm. The sky disappeared, the wind screamed for weeks, and snow swallowed every path. Mammoth herds vanished beyond the horizon. Inside their bone shelters, hunger waited, whispering through the cracks in the walls. A lone hunter would have died, but the circle endured. Food was shared, not hoarded. Children and elders ate first. The strong left again into the white, carrying the memory of stories that had once led others to hidden valleys. Those who stayed worked without pause, patching hides, sealing gaps, feeding the smallest flame. They huddled together for warmth, telling old stories to keep the cold from reaching their minds. The storm raged, but the circle held firm. When the hunters returned, they carried little, but it was enough. The smell of meat filled the air, and the fire grew bright again. The people ate in silence, grateful. The circle had been tested by the endless night, and had survived it. Around the flames, sound began to change. Grunts turned to rhythm, rhythm to tone. Meaning rose in the air like smoke. Before language was born, communication lived in the body, gestures, hums, and the pulse of a shared heartbeat. Through rhythm and movement, they remembered what worked, how to hunt, how to mend, how to endure. Storytelling became survival, each voice preserving the map of a world they refused to surrender to the ice. At the site of Sungir, near today's Moscow, they buried a man and 2 children with thousands of ivory beads sewn into their clothes. Each bead carved by hand, a lifetime of care offered to the dead. Love had become part of survival. This reverence revealed something new. They were no longer just enduring, they were feeling. Empathy was now as vital as the spear. The human circle had become a vessel for meaning, carrying memory beyond the grave. But the Ice Age did not relent. Winters deepened, winds sharpened. Again and again, families gathered tighter. What began as necessity became tradition, the unspoken rule that no one faced the cold alone. Food was scarce, but the will to share never froze. They rationed the last stores, turning hunger into hope. The strongest went out again, guided by memory and faith in each other, hunting not for glory, but for the survival of all. Inside the shelters, the others repaired tools, tightened seams, and kept the fire alive. Children learned by imitation, watching hands move with quiet precision. The storm outside had no power over the unity inside. When the hunters returned, their kill was small but enough. The smell of meat mixed with smoke, and the circle gathered once more. The clan's strength was never in abundance, it was in the act of returning, together, from the dark. This was not victory, it was endurance shaped into instinct. Cooperation replaced isolation, empathy replaced fear. The cold carved new patterns in the human spirit, teaching us that survival itself could be an act of connection. Through countless generations, families gathered around fires, hands moving in rhythm, voices sharing warmth and memory. Across continents, the circle of safety became humanity's most enduring invention, the blueprint for society. Their lessons live within us still. Every time we build, share, or protect, we repeat their ancient choice. The world changes, but the law remains. Together, we survive. Divided, we disappear into the cold again. The Ice Age stripped life to its essence. Many species failed the test, but humanity learned the secret of resilience, to turn weakness into cooperation, to find power not in solitude, but in the circle formed around the flame. The frozen world that shaped them has long melted, but its lessons endure. Every instinct to protect, to create, to gather, was born there, in the glow of fires that refused to die, in the faces of those who kept them burning. They survived the endless winter not because they were the strongest, but because they discovered a truth that still defines us today: the warmest place in a frozen world is, and always will be, inside the human circle. Their fire carried them through the endless winter. If these journeys into our earliest footsteps speak to you, stay close. There is more to uncover in the dark.